Before you brush away those tiny cone-shaped pits in the dirt around American homes, you need to know what is hiding underneath them. Because those little cones are not just marks in the sand, they are traps. And buried at the bottom is a tiny predator waiting for ants and small insects to slip in. Most people walk past these little pits without thinking twice. Some people flatten them, flood them, or you try to destroy them because they look strange, messy, or creepy. But the truth is, these tiny sand traps may be helping around your home more than you realize, and you'll want to stay to the end. Because this tiny buried hunter has one of the strangest makeovers in the insect world. So before you destroy one, here are 7 reasons you should never destroy these tiny sand traps around your home. Number 1, that tiny sand pit is not random. It is a trap. The first reason you should never destroy these tiny sand traps is because they are not just random little holes in the dirt. They are not made by rain. They are not tiny footprints. And they are not your garden trying to grow upside down volcanoes. Those little cone-shaped pits are built on purpose by a creature called a doodlebug, which is actually the larva of an antlion. And once you know what they are, they suddenly look a lot less like messy dirt and a lot more like something from a tiny horror movie. A doodlebug digs into loose, dry sand or dusty soil and shapes it into a little funnel. The sides are crumbly, slippery, and hard for tiny insects to climb. To us, it might look like nothing. Just a small dip near the garden, under the eaves, beside a path near dry soil, or around a sheltered spot outside the house. But to an ant walking across that area, it can be a disaster waiting to happen. One wrong step near the edge, and the sand starts sliding. The ant slips down the side. Then every little movement makes more sand collapse underneath it. And sitting somewhere at the bottom of that trap is the doodlebug, waiting for the dinner delivery it did not even have to chase. Honestly, it is a little rude. The ant is just trying to have a normal day, and suddenly the ground turns into a takeaway chute. But that is what makes the doodlebug so clever. It does not need to run around your yard looking for food. It builds the trap, hides underneath, and lets the loose sand do most of the work. So before you brush one away, flatten it, flood it, or poke it just to see what happens. Remember this, that tiny sand pit is not random. Something built it. And if something small enough falls in, that little patch of dirt may become the last place it ever stands. Number 2, the creature underneath looks nothing like its cute name. The name Doodlebug sounds harmless. It sounds like something a child would draw with big eyes, tiny shoes, and maybe a little hat. But the real creature under the sand is not exactly cute and cuddly. It is the larva of an antlion, and it looks more like a tiny buried monster with a bad attitude. It has a chunky little body, a wide head, and curved pincers that look way too serious for something living in a tiny dirt cone. This is one of the biggest reasons people get shocked when they finally see what is hiding under the sand. Because the pit looks small, the name sounds sweet, but the creature underneath looks like it was designed by nature after a very dramatic meeting. Those pincers are not decoration. They are made for grabbing small prey that slips into the trap. So when an ant or tiny crawling insect slides down toward the bottom, the doodlebug is not sitting there, politely asking it to stay for lunch. It grabs. And because most of its body is hidden under the sand, the prey often does not see the danger until it is already too close. That is what makes the doodlebug so creepy and so impressive. It does not look dangerous from above because you usually cannot see it. All you see is the little sand pit. But underneath, there is a strange little predator, waiting with jaws open. It is almost like nature gave it a cute nickname to distract us. Doodlebug sounds adorable. But if you were an ant, you would probably call it something very different. So when you see those tiny sand traps around your home, remember this. The cute name is doing a lot of heavy lifting because the creature underneath is not doodling. It is hunting. Number 3, it turns loose sand into a weapon. This is where the doodlebug stops being just creepy and starts looking unfair. Because it does not only hide in the sand and wait, it uses the sand as part of the attack. The trap is built from loose, dry dirt or sand on purpose. That loose sand matters because it is hard for tiny insects to climb. An ant steps near the edge, the ground crumbles, the ant slips, then it tries to climb out, but every step makes more sand slide down underneath it. It is basically like trying to run up a tiny beach hill while the beach is actively betraying you. And the doodlebug is not just sitting at the bottom doing nothing. If the insect starts getting away, the doodlebug can flick sand upward from the bottom of the pit. Yes, it can actually throw sand at its prey, which feels a bit dramatic, honestly. The ant is already trapped in a dirt funnel, and now the thing hiding underneath is throwing sand at it like a tiny underground bully. But that is exactly why the trap works so well. The flying sand can knock the insect off balance and make it slide back down toward the center. So the doodlebug does not need to chase like a centipede. It does not need to fly. It does not need to be big, loud, or scary looking From above, it turns the ground itself into the weapon. That tiny cone is built so the prey does most of the struggling, while the doodlebug waits at the bottom like it booked a table and dinner is arriving any second. So before you destroy one of those little pits, remember this. That is not just loose dirt. That is a trap designed to collapse. Coming up, the trap gets worse, the pincers get creepier, and you'll see why flooding these tiny pits might be the wrong move. And later, this buried little hunter changes into something you would never expect. By the way, if you like finding out what strange creatures around your home actually are, what they are doing, and whether you should really leave them alone, hit the like button and subscribe to Creepwise. There are plenty more creepy but useful videos coming. Number 4, those pincers are how it finishes the job. This is the part of the doodlebug that looks the most like it belongs in a tiny monster movie, the pincers. Because once you actually see a doodlebug out of the sand, the first thing you notice is usually that wide head and those curved jaws. They are not there to make it look dramatic for the camera. They are its main hunting tools. When an ant or tiny crawling insect slides down into the pit, the doodlebug is already waiting at the bottom, mostly hidden under the sand. And when the prey gets close enough, those pincers snap onto it. Not very polite, not very fair, but very effective. The doodlebug does not need to chase across the garden like a tiny maniac. It has already built the trap, loosened the sand, and waited in the perfect spot. The pincers are the final step. They grab the prey and help pull it down into the sand, where the doodlebug can feed without needing to leave its hiding place. And that is what makes this little creature so strange. From above, you might only see a harmless-looking pit. But underneath, there is a tiny predator with jaws built for catching anything small enough to fall in. So before you destroy the trap, remember this. That little sand cone is not just where the doodlebug lives. It is where the pincers are waiting. Number 5, it helps control ants and small crawling pests around your home. This is where the doodlebug goes from creepy little sand monster to surprisingly useful. Because yes, it looks strange. Yes, its trap is a bit disturbing. And yes, if you were an ant, this would be the worst tourist attraction in the garden. But around your home, doodlebugs can help by catching ants and other tiny crawling insects that move through dry soil, sandy spots, garden edges, paths, and sheltered areas near the house. Now, does that mean every ant is evil? No. Ants are part of nature too, and outside in the garden, a few ants are usually nothing to panic about. But when ants start turning up around patios, doorways, cracks, food areas, pot plants, or near the house, they can become annoying very quickly. That is where doodlebugs can be helpful. They do not chew your walls. They do not raid your pantry. They do not march across your kitchen bench like they pay rent. They mostly stay hidden in their little sandy pits, catching small insects that wander too close. So if you find doodlebug pits around your home, it may be a sign that there are tiny insects moving through that area. And instead of causing the problem, the doodlebug may actually be helping clean up part of it. You do not have to love them. You do not have to name each pit and start a neighborhood watch. But before you destroy them, remember this, those tiny sand traps might be catching the crawling pests you would rather not have getting closer to your house. Number 6, flooding the pits may be targeting the wrong problem. This is what some people do when they see these tiny sand traps. They flatten them, they brush them away, or they pour water into them like they are dealing with a tiny backyard volcano that needs to be stopped. And yes, water can wreck the pit. Doodlebugs need loose, dry sand or dusty soil for their traps to work properly. If the sand gets wet, heavy, or packed down, the little funnel does not collapse the same way, and the trap becomes much harder to use. But here is the part people miss. Destroying the pit does not always fix why the doodlebug was there in the first place. Doodlebugs usually build traps in places where tiny crawling insects are moving around. So if you have lots of little pits near your home, the better question might not be, how do I destroy these? The better question is, what are they catching? There may be ants moving through the area. There may be small insects around dry soil, cracks, garden edges, paths, or sheltered spots near the house. The doodlebug did not create that traffic. It showed up because the traffic was already there. So if you flood the pits, you might remove the creepy little traps you can see, while the ants and tiny crawling pests keep moving around like nothing happened. It is a bit like firing the security guard because you did not like his face. Fair enough. His face is weird, but he may have been doing a job. So before you pour water into every little pit, remember this. The sand trap may not be the real problem. It may be the clue that something smaller is already moving around your home. Number 7, it eventually turns into something completely different. This is the part most people never realize. That creepy little sand hunter does not stay buried under the dirt forever. The doodlebug is only the young stage of an antlion. So while it may spend its early life hiding at the bottom of a sand pit, Catching ants and tiny insects like a little underground villain, that is not the end of the story. After it has grown enough, the doodlebug stops building traps. It stops sitting at the bottom of the pit, waiting for prey. And then it does something completely different. It makes a little cocoon under the sand. So now, the same creature that was once throwing sand, grabbing insects, and hiding in a tiny dirt funnel is tucked away underground, changing into its adult form. And when that change is finished, it does not crawl out as the same creepy little jaw monster. It comes out as an adult antlion, and the adult looks nothing like the doodlebug. It has wings, it has a slimmer body, and it can look a bit like a delicate flying insect. You might not even connect to that creepy trap in the dirt. So from buried hunter to flying antlion, this tiny creature is a lot stranger than it looks. If you enjoyed this, hit the like button and subscribe to Creepwise for more creepy, surprising, and seriously interesting creatures hiding in plain sight. And comment below if you have seen these tiny sand traps around your home, or if you have spotted them somewhere outside America too. Then click the video on screen now to see another creature people completely misunderstand.